Part of our movie making is saying it's more than a movie, it's a movement. Why didn't I say it? Because I thought people would think I was crazy saying I had a spiritual experience. So this beautiful experience turns into an emergency when fear comes in, and I'll simplify it by saying, if I have no one to talk to that I believe would understand, I then got fearful. So if I don't have a support network, then I wound up going into some fear. The emergency to me happens when there's fear prompted by either a medical system or a family cultural system that ignores you, negates it, doesn't understand. And it's frightening. That is part of my why underneath this docuseries, that it happened to me. I kept it quiet. When I started to find out this was happening all over, I'm like, we need to make a movie.
Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of the Oliver Schirach Show. Let me be your dream catcher. Let me help you to get those dreams closer to you by going out and finding guests that share with us mind-altering and expanding topics, knowledge and insight, so that you can move forward and get closer to grab that dream that brings you closer with your true self, your soul and your bigger you, and to the universe and all there is. Welcome to this new episode where I get to talk to Janet Werner. She is a successful executive coach and change management thought leader, mental health advocate, and the driving force behind the documentary and movie on the spiritual emergency and our mental health system. Join us on this journey of faith, struggle, and enlightenment as we dive into Janet's experience, the creation of her docuseries and movie project, and the broader implications for the mental health practices and spiritual understanding. We start with Janet's story that started in 1979 with her first spiritual awakening and following spiritual crisis, and then follow up with her second spiritual awakening and crisis in 2005 and the hospitalization in the mental health hospital, and her desire to create a movie about what's going on, as she felt completely sane but was treated as insane back then. And we are looking at what happened since 2005, why does it take so long, and what are the struggles to actually create a movie and a docuseries, and her insights and knowledge and experiences on how we could actually help people with some spiritual awakenings. Why do we actually end up in a spiritual crisis? When does it happen and why? And what can we do to help people which get there? What is needed? So without any further ado, I welcome Janet to this special interview. Have fun. We are recording. So hello, dear listeners from around the world, and welcome to another episode on the Oliver Schirach Show. And today is a special day for me as I have two back-to-back interviews, and this one is with Janet Werner. How do you pronounce your name?
No,
Werner, right?
I love that. You do it, Werner. It's Werner, but Werner.
Yeah, it's just because it sounds very German, but I heard other people say it differently, so I'm not sure. You're a business coach, and you reached out to me after I had an interview in August with Benjamin Castillo on his spiritual emergency and his several hospitalization to the mental health clinic due to his spiritual awakening and his love. And you reached out to me because you're making documentary and a movie, and you have your own history. So welcome to the Oliver Schirach Show.
Thank you. Thank you, Oliver.
And thank you, Janet, for being here. So let's do it the Oliver Schirach way and see how we're gonna wiggle the questions through. We are gonna focusing, for the listeners, we're gonna focusing more on the behind the scenes of the documentary and how it became to be. But as usual, I want to know more about the person I have on the other side. And so I have some icebreaker questions I start with. And sometimes they give me some extra questions to ask. And most of the time, it's also to relax a bit into the talk. So if you would describe yourself in 3 words, what words would those be and why would you choose them? So, like a little bit of explanation around.
Oh boy, I'm gonna start with one. I guess I'm gonna say enthusiastic. Enthos comes from God, and that is where my enthusiasm comes from. So I'm enthusiastic. Um, Sometimes in this whole process, I'm not, but I want to use that word because I feel that right now. Um, I'm gonna say steadfast because we're gonna get into this has taken 44 years to begin to produce the documentary, so I'm steadfast. Um, and probably not the best word, but I'm gonna say it, a believer. You know, I believe in God. I believe in highest level guidance. I'm a believer because I couldn't even be here today if I couldn't say that. So I'll start there.
Wow, that's good. So we also know now why. And if you would be a color, the new color in the coloring box, it could be any fantastic color. Doesn't have to be a red or a blue, but it can also be red and blue. And why would you be?
Well, I actually was gonna say red because it's very intense and vibrant, but I would add the pink because pink is a more subtle, uh, very feminine, just a softer red. So, um, in some ways, very, very powerful from where I get my guidance, but kind of a soft pink because in my older years, Oliver, I'm almost 70, and I get proud to say that because I don't know how I got here. I should still be in my 40s. So the pink is more from the softening with age, and so I'm gonna choose pink this time.
Yeah, so that means like in the 40s, it would have been definitely
Oh, powerful red. Fire red.
fire red in the 40s, and now where you are now, it's more the pink, and that's nice, right?
Is my nails. Yes,
Were they pink?
my nails are pink.
They look whitish for at least on the screen for me. Through the ether and the video, etc., it comes pinkish. Let's see in the post processing if they're pinkish. Uh, yeah, how would you have described yourself?
Oh, I still wanna just get into the story, but I was a force to be reckoned with. Um, I would still say in a very discerning way, I was on fire.
Okay, yeah,
I was just on fire. I was on fire for corporate America to transform it, to do leadership and, personal development. I was on fire, for my own growth. It was well, I think I'll save the story later. I was on fire. Yeah, I was an entrepreneur and I was on a mission to influence the world and yeah, make a mark. So I'm not as much on fire now. I have a different fire, a slow burning fire. So yeah, I was on fire.
yeah, it's more
For
steady, fast, more patient, more
yeah,
pink,
yeah. More pink.
more pink. So yeah, let's go into the story. We said behind the scenes of a documentary. So how is that? How is the life of creating a documentary? And as you said, your past has been corporate America, leadership, personal development. So it doesn't sound like movie.
Yeah. Be careful what you're planned for. And again, in my world, God has different plans. We're doing we, and I'm gonna say, a significant global team has evolved. We're doing a documentary that turned into a docuseries and also a feature movie. So it's behind the scenes of all of that. And no, I have no production, media, entertainment experience whatsoever. But as you ask more questions, I can go back to where did this start over 40 years ago in the whole mental health system challenge? And then how did it get turbo boosted in 2005, maybe 18 years ago? And I do love that you want to talk about behind the scenes of the making of the movie or the docuseries, because that story really hasn't been told. And so we'll start there and you ask your questions. Where did this begin? Or,
I mean,
how did we even start a movie?
yeah, it's like there's so many entry points to this. Right? So you mentioned already the mental health. So the docu series and the movie is about the mental health care. Where in the Western world, the US, is it all around the world? What are you looking at?
So when we, maybe before we got on, we talked about meeting because you did an interview with Benjamin Castillo
Yeah.
from Bali and his spiritual emergency. So, yes, it's about mental health, but it's about the spiritual side of mental health. Yes, it is partially about my story, but what has happened, it has evolved to include as many cultures around the world, including Bali and Africa and UK and India. So it's almost like it makes sense why I'm doing this now because we've really ignited a force around the world. It's not just about my story. It's about how this has happened for thousands of years, how it's happening now or in recent past around the world. So we want to introduce that there's some kind of an experience happening that shouldn't be misdiagnosed, medicated, and put in the hospital and shut down. It should be embraced. So that is part of my why underneath this docu-series that it happened to me. I kept it quiet. When I started to find out this was happening all over, I'm like, we need to make a movie.
Many times this passion or these big projects start with something happening to oneself and oneself searching
Yes.
for a solution or a why, and then finally finding the courage and speaking out, and people come and say, hey, I had a similar experience, and then people come. So who is so who is involved in this docu series and the movie? Is it the same people throughout the docu series and the movie, or is it kind of like different teams?
So I'll try to answer that briefly, and then we might still go back to how did this all come to be? The amount of people around the world that have had spiritual experiences and misdiagnosed, disrespected, over medicated, put in a hospital, and then come back to do like great things in the world. It just keeps growing. Even today, I just keep getting more people. So it is the docu series will include all of them. In the movie, which is a court case, fictionalized court case, it will be selective experts. It will be a few people that have lived experience, but it's really gonna be the movie is, as you would think, it's a fictionalized process where there's more selective people, more few people, but docuseries, I wanna feature everybody over time.
So it's like, yeah, you have a few things ahead, and then you just continue, like whatever comes in. Super. So you mentioned that you want to go like, why did it happen? So it happens with you, right? I would say. So what happened to you? I listened to interviews, and it happened quite some time ago, and in a time where we couldn't really talk about these things publicly, spiritual awakenings, seeing ghosts, um, feeling the love, having the intuition, hearing voices, whatever it is. Now, luckily, for the last 2 years, it's getting more and more accepted. So, what happened to you?
Yes. So thank you for that perspective. Um, my first spiritual, some people call it mystical experience, happened in 1979. So that is like 40 something years ago. And I was in my master's degree of counseling. I was going to be a counseling psychologist, and I was 25. And I'll do the short version. I had decided I needed to get a divorce, which is a normal life experience. And I'm going to say I had a normal recent reaction to it. And because I felt suppressed, it wasn't right. And I called in a divorce. And why that's important is because once I made a decision, I started awakening, and I felt like it was a spiritual awakening at 25. That I made a decision. I made a wrong choice. Now I'm going to make a right choice. And when I started to experience a spiritual awakening, it started to be perceived as a mental health issue. And while I can understand that, I couldn't get anybody to fully understand that I had a mystical experience. I got a feeling of empowerment, and I felt free to now pursue my life over again. So I'll kind of leave it that simple. Unfortunately, as you said, I'm going to say, even though there was research behind the scenes, the college campus and the general population did not have an understanding of spiritual awakenings. And I was required to go into a mental health hospital.
So you were required. What does that mean? The school sent you there, or your
Yes.
parent?
Yeah. Well, the school gave me a choice: go home, which meant give up my master's, give up my life, or go into a mental health, psychiatric unit. And I will, again, keep this simple. I knew I had a spiritual awakening. So I said, I have better chance to get in and out of this psychiatric unit and get back to school, get back on my life, than I would have just going home, leaving school, leaving what I love. So I have to say, I chose to go in under what I would say is coercion, and I felt like I could do it. Lots of details, Oliver, about how I did that. But it was pretty simple. I just learned to comply, get through 2 weeks. Quick end is I got out, I finished my master's, and I went on my way. And like nothing to be said about this whole thing for 25 years.
Well, your parents knew about the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
so you couldn't keep that completely silent, but
No, it was kept silent inside the college. I was protected, which was very respectful, but nothing was ever mentioned. And excuse me, maybe at some point we'll go back to that, but I literally was able to just finish my master's, get off of whatever drugs they made me be on, and just start over. I'm like, that was a big mistake. Nobody's to blame. Let's get on. And I just went on for 25 years into successful corporate work, and will eventually land into what happened 25 years later.
eh, now the question for me arises, and I guess for some listeners. So you had a spiritual awakening, a mystical experience, whatever you call it, uh, and the school could point it out, or the people around you. So you were hospitalized, and you came back, and I said, okay, that was a mistake. So you just learned to interact differently than you did there, so people do not see that, and you kind of suppressed this kind of feeling, or how did you? Because I remember with Benjamin, when I talked to him, he realized he could not run around and sing like "Love everyone." I think that was his
Yes.
thing. Uh, what he shared with me, where they said, "Hey, calm down." But did you suppress your feelings there, your intuition, or you just didn't express it?
I want to go all the way to 2005
Okay.
to answer that question, because my supervisor at the college from 79, I re-met in 2005, and we're still colleagues and friends.
That's 26 years of corporate work, and then we are 2005, right?
Yes, but I want to answer your question. What did I do in 1979? And I'm going to try to answer it in a roundabout way, but what I think is most appropriate. So I just kept quiet. Let's just leave it. I kept quiet. I knew what it was. It wasn't what I was diagnosed as, and I went on to my life. So I don't know. I don't think it was suppression or lack of expression. I mean, I just didn't talk. I said, I know I just got to move on. This was a mistake. I want to link it to my college supervisor who I'll just leave names out of this for today. Yeah. So my supervisor had the best interest in mind when he said you really need to be in the hospital. But when I talked to him 25 years later, he said, if you would have told me it was a spiritual experience, I would have never put you in a hospital because he was very Christian and spiritual. But it took 25 years for me to say it to him and for him to say, it's like, why didn't you tell me? That's a whole other question. I don't even know if I want to answer that. Why didn't I say it? Okay, I'll answer it. Because I thought people would think I was crazy saying I had a spiritual experience. And because I didn't say it at 25, I was seen as crazy. So now that's a lot to unravel, right? But that was my choice. That's how I did it. But literally, I got comfort 25 years later when this particular person just said, I get it. We understand spiritual experiences now. And if you would have told me, I wouldn't have put you in a hospital. So, all okay until the next part of the story.
Yeah, yeah. Now I remember you then had a son, and something with presentation at what is it?
Wall
Yeah,
Street.
Wall Street. The word didn't come, but I saw the building with Wall Street
Yeah.
right away. You invited someone to talk about what was it, the mental situation, and this person just jumped
Yeah.
off in the last moment, so you jumped in, and then the whole thing unraveled again.
Yes. All right. You have a good memory.
Oof,
So
partial.
we fast forward 25 years from then. And I'm going to say, it's sort of easy to see that there wasn't a mental illness because I just went through 25 years of, success and life and all that, but we'll leave that. So it's 2005. I am a business owner working with corporate. I did have a business failure, my second one, not my first. And why I say that is there was a lot of trauma in the second business failure, which sometimes precedes another spiritual awakening. I'll just say that. So the second failure was 2003. I'm on my way back 2005. Not so bad, 2 years. I'm a single mom and I'm like, yay, I'm getting invited back to Wall Street, back in my corporate suit. And I am very much inspired to get this story out. So I do promote another woman and she backs out. So I'm like, all right, I'll take your place. So all of a sudden, it's June 2005, June 17th, and I'm up in front of financial investors. I'm very guided by my view of God's guidance. And I'm presenting a case to investors of we need to fund training for medical students, psychiatric medical students on the spiritual side of mental health. That's the short part of the presentation. We need to train them. Here's the research. It's in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual as of 1994. It's time. We need funding. So the presentation goes well on June 17th, 2005. 9 days later, I go home to my mother because I'm compelled as at my soul. I said, I want her to know There was a misdiagnosis 25 years ago. I'm now rectifying it. I'm going to do something about it. And she gets nervous
Yep.
about my enthusiasm, about my idealism. And I am going to just make it very clear. I'm not going to, I'm not going to judge my mother, as I won't judge a lot of people who bought into the medical model and the narrative. My mother got nervous. She called the police, not because I was dangerous, not because I was running around in the streets. I was absolutely like normal with lots of research. It was because she thought I was going into another manic moment. And in her mind, I understand it was reasonable because she wouldn't know how to handle it. Call the police, get my girl into a hospital and fix her again. And so I'll leave it there unto your questions. Literally 9 days after I'm on Wall Street, all I want to do is tell the truth to my mother. And my mother is still armed in her head with the medical model and doesn't know to sit with me and really understand what happened. So I'll stop there for a second because I literally was escorted by the police into a hospital 9 days after my Wall Street presentation. And we're going to get very close in a moment to the making of the movie because that's kind of where we are.
I'm rehearing the story like with slightly different words, but the story is the same. That the mother, and I'm just asking myself, 26 years later, how comes, like suddenly comes this fear up? You shared like your experience. You were on the Wall Street. You had this presentation. You want to help in the mental health, and also for the listeners here, you didn't mention it. A lot of your work was in the pharma industry after school, right?
Yes.
Until you felt the call to step out and be a consultant or have your own
Yes.
company, right? So you're kind of in this mental, physical health, pharma, whatever, right? You work in there and try to change it from the inside out, kind of. And now your
Yes.
mom, 26 years later, is getting fearful that you will have a manic moment. But you said for
Yes.
26 years you were calm, you had a normal life like everyone else. So is there some, how you so generational trauma in your mom from her family, or something that triggers her there? I mean, there's
You
also
know,
things where people get pushed to push other people into psychiatries because of
yeah.
their own fears, of their own experiences with other people in the family. We always say it's genetics, right? You have this disease or
Mm,
that mental issue because of the genetics, and we know it's not true.
yes. I'm going to say let's come back to part two and do that part because I don't want to get too off track. I'm gonna say because in the docuseries, we talk about a lot of moms who meant well. We have a section about moms, and there's a lot of moms that did the same thing my mother did and can now speak to the regret. They didn't know. So I wanna almost leave that piece for
What's your
another time because because there's much more to talk about. I literally was very calm and I'm like, all right, I can actually see you're thinking my excitement is manic, but here I am calm. I'm just trying to show you all my research. I'm trying to show you I went on Wall Street. And to be fair to her, I didn't tell her any of that. So it's a surprise I went on Wall Street, right? It's a surprise I have all this research. So l- I just want to give that fair due and then come back to the whole, how have moms or family or friends been influenced by the medical model, the narrative, the chemical imbalance, the marketing to believe the authority of medical over their own child, over their own friend.
yeah.
I just think that's a whole other topic for us to talk about.
Oh yeah, but
At a
I mean the chemical imbalance, and I have family members and friends, close friends, which for 25 years are on the drugs, right? Because of chemical imbalance. I've been 1.5 years on antidepressants, and I said, I don't want that. And I was supposed to get ADHD medication. Like, I'm not myself. I'm just numb. I'm just tired. I just don't want to do. Like, oh, it's so nice to be around you because you're so calm. And I, inside myself, was just like feeling I'm slagging through life. And I said, no. And I have this, at school and other places, I get the mirror back and forth, like, oh, I have seen this and they should be on medication. They would be so much better. I'm like, no, no, no. We can have other perspectives, but that's not the talk we have here on what else we could do to get there, right? I mean, otherwise we go
Yeah.
completely zigzag in 100 different ways. But yeah, so you want to continue what happened after your mom called the police because you had all the paper and
Yes.
everything, right?
Yes. So, and I'm going to jump into, because we do want to get into, this is all behind the scenes of the making of the movie. So I'm going to stay short. There's lots of, it's almost like you can watch the docuseries and the movie to see the detail. And Oliver, we can go back to anything you want to, but I want to jump into the making of the movie because any good movie or docuseries has a backstory. And we're talking a little bit about the backstory. So let me jump into, I sought guidance at the moment I saw the police show up. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do now? And the whole guidance was stay calm, try to explain yourself, but also know it's not explainable in the current environment. Mother, police. I'm like, all right, I'm going in involuntarily. Please put that on the record and let's just go see what happens. I also prayed to God and said, show me how to do this because I cannot believe this is happening again.
Mhm.
And again, I remember the clothes I wore. I remember walking calmly into the police office or the police car. And I'm like, Lord, show me how we're going to do this because this is going to be a short visit. There's got to be a purpose. You got to show me. So shortchanging getting through all of that, I'm in the hospital. They're pumping me with drugs that I don't want. And I'm conscious. I'm not so too, but the intake nurse says, why are you here? And I'm not answering her. Why are you here? And she starts, bad. Why are you here? So the first answer was because my mother didn't believe me that I was on Wall Street and blah, blah, blah. That sounds totally crazy to her. So she says, she writes it in her book, thinks she's connected to Wall Street, delusions of grandeur. Number two, blames her mother. And I'm like, I'm not blaming my mother. I'm trying to answer your question. So she keeps asking me and asking me. And you know what I said, Oliver? I said, I'm here to make a movie. I said, I'm here to make a movie. Well, how crazy is that, right?
After she's writing that you blame your mom for having fantasies of greatness, right? You come with that.
Yeah.
How did that
So
come into your mind to say something like that when you see that she definitely doesn't listen?
well, I'm just saying this is how it is. And we're going to talk about the backstreet of how did I even come to make a movie or in process 18 years later. It's in my medical report, which is why I absolutely remember that. I looked at my medical report. The medical report says delusions of grandeur, thinks she's going to make a movie, thinks she's connected to Wall Street, which I was, and all this stuff. I even had my supervisor, which I mentioned before, who was in Washington, D.C. And I said, and I got the support of my friend in Washington, D.C. Delusions of grandeur, thinks she's connected to Washington, D.C. It's all on my medical report. But let's stay with the movie. So it just popped in my head. All right. So I'm going to lay the groundwork for behind the scenes of the movie. So I am literally held against my will for 2 weeks. And I call my Wall Street friend because we can call on the hallway. And I'm like, "You're not gonna believe this. You are not gonna believe this." Because they just saw me in a suit on Wall Street. And it is hard to believe. And so anyway, so I did call them, and the first response was, "We're gonna sue the state of New Jersey because it's really unlawful. I'm not danger to self or others," and whatever qualification. So I said, "No, no, guys. I wanna make a movie. I wanna make a court." I was on the phone, the hallway phone. "We wanna sue New Jersey for locking you up, and we wanna get you out." And so I'll just say the 2 things. That's when I stated to them, I said, "No, no lawsuit. I wanna make a movie." So my one mentor said to me, "Well, then start writing. Write everything down." And that's what kept me sane, Oliver, for 2 weeks. I had a friend bring me a pad and pencil, which in some ways you weren't allowed to have. We may or may not get to that. But I was given a pad and pencil, and I wrote everything down for those 2 weeks. And my Wall Street friends kept saying, "Keep writing because 'cause we're writing the script for the movie while you're in the hospital." That's the beginning of the behind the scenes of the movie, and we do have more to get to, so I'll let you start there.
Oh, you're just so nicely moving forward. You have like the script in your head. Uh, so yeah, so the behind the scene is basically you started writing while you were locked in. And now you were forcefully drugged. You got
Yes.
sedatives, like you got whatever drugs, which made you. You said keeping you sane. So did you get delusional getting these drugs, or what was it? Just to make you calm, or
So, good question, and then we're gonna still say, go stay with what else had to happen to get near the movie. I would befriend the nurses, the staff. I befriended everybody. I did it in '79 and I did it in 2005 because I was friggin' sane. So I would hang out at the reception desk and I would talk to the staff. And I said, "Why would I have to take all these drugs? I don't like them. I don't want them." And the staff member said, "You only have to take one to be in compliance." And I'm like, "Thank you." So I stood my ground, made a statement to the psychiatrist, and I said, "I will be compliant, but choose one. I don't want all of them. I don't have to take all of them. I am in compliance. Give me one." And it was lithium. And I said, "As a matter of fact, I'm very sensitive to meds. So please give me a tiny dose. I'll accept a tiny dose." And he wouldn't accept that. So I had to take one dose. And that, I was okay with it. I also pray to God, like, don't let this drug hurt me. So yeah, I did not have to have heavy dosages of multiple drugs.
but
I did get to know my rights. Yeah.
so was so you connected with the people in there. You were 2 weeks. Did you also get some other intuition how to go? I mean, you say you pray to God to help you, so it doesn't have a side effect. Did you also get some other kind of intuitive guidance on what to do else?
I'll stay with the basics. I had 2 colleagues come in. I maintained my conversation with my Wall Street mentor, and I got Post-its and pens and paper brought in so I could write. And we'll just say on the funny side is you're not allowed to have pens and paper on the psych ward. I had it. I have a clipboard here. I walked around with a clipboard, Oliver. And you literally are not allowed to have a pen, and somehow they didn't see it. So I wrote every single day. Um, I had a connection to my Wall Street friend almost every day for 2 weeks, so I felt very sad. I was on a business job in some ways. Um, and that was more real than what they thought. So I accepted that my I don't know, assignment was to just log everything. And what I logged was food. Food was poor, it was not enough, and it was spoiled. So I reported that to my Wall Street friends, and they would make calls to get that fixed. I reported that the bathrooms and the common rooms were filthy, and they reported that, and then they got that fixed. I think those were the 2 areas. I reported food and uncleanliness, and in my 2 weeks, I got to see that that was fixed.
Wow.
So it was like I was a reporter. I was like a reporter in some ways.
That's cool. That it really
Yes.
was. I hope it stayed fixed and it wasn't just one.
Well,
So
that'll be another one to say, where are they, 18 years later, which they actually did transform this hospital, but, probably not too much for today. So we're back on the making of the movie. Uh, my Wall Street friends are saying, right, right, right. They're very clear. I don't want a lawsuit when I get out. But literally, when I get out, the first meeting I had, probably maybe 2 weeks later, was with my Wall Street friend and a producer. And we talked about making the movie.
wow. Okay.
I was sane, I was clean, I was not traumatized, um, and I have to say that because it wasn't like a lot of recuperation when I got out. It's like, "Okay, great, I'm out, we gotta get to business because I literally was just on Wall Street, so why wouldn't I go back there? So I went back. As soon as I was out, I went back, and, at some point, we could really document in the docuseries, not tonight, who did I meet with, and how did we spend the next few months talking to producers, starting to write the script. I paid somebody to write the script, and we named the movie Calling God to the Witness Stand. It just was named. We knew it was a court case. We knew that Hollywood would respond to court cases. Law and court cases are popular. And it's almost like, well, it is. It's a fiction of what I didn't do. I want to go to court, but only to educate. And so I spent a good year after I got out fairly quickly starting to write the script for the movie, not the docuseries, in 2005. So I'll stop there because that really starts the behind the scenes.
Yeah. So okay, you started inside and then you continued writing and you got someone to actually write this script. So it's yeah, because you have
Yes.
to write in a certain specific way for movies, I think, right?
Yeah, I can't write that. So I hired somebody, like, that was my first actionable step, to hire a scriptwriter pretty much within the first month I'm out,
Wow.
talk with my Wall Street people, and talk to a producer.
That's like almost 19 years now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what happened from 2005 to last summer when you talked to me? What did you just
Uh,
continuously working on it, or did it get into a drawer and suddenly you meet some people and you pull it out of the drawer, or what happened?
that one.
That one.
So that one. So I think I'm all set to go and I'm on a trajectory, absolutely not stoppable, gonna go forward. And I would say within a year, one, I ran out of steam. Two, I ran out of money to pay for a script writer because that can be expensive. And I had to wake up to, I had healing from the trauma of being put in hospital. I didn't look at it. I was ready to jump in. I want to action. This didn't happen. Well, it happened to me. Let's make use of it. But I literally started to have to invest in acupuncture, healing services, not because I had a mental illness, but because I was traumatized and I almost didn't even pay attention to that. Like I was literally taken in. So I had to back off. Well, one, again, I didn't have the money. to continue. So I'm like, all right, let me take care of myself a little bit, regroup, let me accept that the movie's not going to happen as fast. I will also say something. I talked to another producer and he said Hollywood is not ready for movies about God and spirit in 2005. And I'm like, well, I think there's some out there, but all right. So if we could actually come back again and look at the trends of Hollywood of how they started letting God and spirit come out. It was a little bit. We could also look at documentaries, very, very little going on at that point. I remember calling some experts in the field of spiritual emergency, Dr. Groff and Dr. Lukoff, and I don't think there was any documentaries on YouTube. If YouTube even existed, I think it did.
2005, 2005, 6, 7, there, around there, 5, 6, 7, YouTube started.
Okay. So there weren't spiritual emergency videos
No, not
then.
at
And
least
I
not that I looked for. I mean, I was
right.
unconscious back then, so, or too afraid
So
of
this
looking
is
for
good.
stuff like that, right? So,
All right. This is good because this is exactly what was happening. I said to the two experts I knew, Dr. Lukoff and Dr. Groff, and their names are worthy to mention. I said, we need to make a documentary. And both of them were in agreement. And I'm going to say at some other point, we should come back to see where are they today, because at least Dr. Lukoff, 18, 19 years later, is with our documentary right now. I did call him in 2005. We noticed there were not documentaries out on this topic. There are thousands of documentaries out on spiritual emergency, some of which are probably not useful, some, are. But anyway, this is my first year out of the hospital. I'm talking to Dr. Graff, Dr. Lukoff. We're talking about getting something on YouTube, and we're talking about a movie. And meanwhile, I'm not working. I'm not a corporate consultant. I'm not earning income, and I'm a single mom. Um, so let's say your vision of I put it on the shelf is exactly what I did. I said, let me put it on the shelf. I can't move this emotionally, energetically, financially. And so let's say I just went off and did some other jobs. I did some other jobs and I did get some corporate consulting. And so I had to walk through, 10 years. 2015, I met a producer. Just happened.
just
Um,
happened. You didn't have some kind
just
of
happened.
intention, prayers, meditation.
No, no, it just showed up. It showed up from taking a job. So I took a job, let me keep going, and then the person at the job introduced me to a producer. So I'll do this one short because it's part of the drudgery, drudgery. So the producer, who I still talk to today, said, "You need to have a script." And I said, "But I don't know how to write a script, and I don't have the money for a script." And so that was that. So I thought it would get going. I got excited, but that few months of conversation was nope, got to put it back on the shelf again. So my point in saying is the making of the movie can take a lot of steps. So, yep. And then it's got to go on the shelf again.
How did you feel about that during these
Oh, well, it was painful. I was excited. I thought I was coming out again.
So what did you do to yeah to go through this pain, or to pray, meditate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pray, surrender, be thankful I got another step. And I know I'm not doing it service of how painful the emotions are, but I don't know, sometimes I don't get there that easily. Extremely painful.
Yeah, but this is also
All right.
it's also helpful for others which are probably in the same process now. They had some experience, they want to write a movie or they want to write a book,
The
and
book.
they don't move forward, right? And it's just like, and I feel like, but then I have someone like you which says, it took what, 17, 18 years or whatever, 19 years
Yeah.
to where we are now. So what? So that in 2015, as another step forward, but you saw it as a step, which can be
I
hard.
saw it as
It can be hard when you're in the situation to see that it's actually a step forward. I can imagine.
it is, and I just wanna say, unless you wanna bring me to tears, which I don't mind, but I don't know if is the depth of pain of every time you think you're getting close, and then what you have to do quietly behind the scenes when there's no support system. Again, I'm a single mom. I'm not making money. I think God's calling me to do this, and it's like, again, I can't get going? Like, again, you're saying I gotta do this, this, and this when I don't know how to do this and this, and then I'd have to surrender. I think I have to keep it that simple for this moment. I had to surrender.
For how many years?
Well, 2019, so now it's 4 years, right?
So the
4
time
years
gets
of
shorter and shorter every time.
oh, it does. So, in the meantime, my son goes off to the army and is in Afghanistan.
Oh,
And that's a whole nother emotional thing. One son, one mom, whatever. So I have to put that in there because there's this life experience happening, which we all have. And it just gets me to go more to God. I have to say it. I don't know how else to do it. And I'm like, okay, keep my son safe. Help me, help me, help me keep going. Help me get some work. Um, And 2019 comes, my son's out. I did get a little work. And all of a sudden, Oliver, I get like this calling or this notion that says, you got to wake up this project again. You got to take it off the shelf. And I remember the night. I absolutely remember where I was. Take it off the shelf. You got to wake it up. So I go on the internet and I start searching. Who am I supposed to talk
yes.
to?
That's what you were searching. Who am I supposed to talk to?
Who am I supposed to talk to? And I'm gonna do quick. For some unbelievable reason, I come across this organization called Assist. And we have to come back and name what it is because I forget what it is. Assist. Assist.org. And it is this amazing organization supporting spiritual emergencies. And I'm gonna do this kinda quick because I wanna stay with how did this movie keep going? So quick, I get Assist, I talk to the president. The president gets me to somebody in New Jersey because I said, "I need local people. I need somebody in New Jersey." She gets me to somebody in New Jersey. The person in New Jersey says, "I wanna record your story at Rutgers University," which is a respected university in New Jersey. It's all 2019, 20. I run up to Rutgers, I record my story, and I'm like, I'm back. We're gonna do the movie. We're gonna do it. And so that starts moving. And all of a sudden I start meeting people around the world and I have a small team and we're starting to go. I'm gonna put the story together and Canada, Australia, um, California, and and then it falls apart again.
Oh, okay.
I can laugh about it now. I was devastated. So 2019 to 2020, all this movement again starts happening, Oliver, behind the scenes of the making of the movie. And I think we're golden. I think we're finally there. in the same way I thought we were there in 2005. And I will just say it falls apart from various members on the team. And I don't think it's important for part of this movie. It just happens. People people say things or do things and they fall apart. So I remember saying to my son, I said, I'll take 2 days, but I gotta get back on the horse because I can't. So, and I know my son could testify to it at some point. So I want to kind of give you the picture and then we can talk. So back on the force was I found another woman who was trying to make her movie that I could help. And it was about police mental health. And I said, why don't I put my effort there? Let me help somebody else get going on what I've had a hard time getting going. So I put my back on the horse was all of a sudden I find this person. I help her for 2 year or a year and a half, and we'll leave details out, but she did get her documentary going. As that happened, it's 2022, 23, and I say, it's time. It's time. It's time for this documentary or it's time for the movie. And again, I like to do things short. I asked a colleague in New Jersey, I said, find me a psychiatrist, not from my mental, find me a psychiatrist who can support this documentary. Cause I'm kind of realizing I need funders, I need medical people, I need something stronger behind me. Short version is I do get introduced to a psychiatrist in New Jersey. The person happens to be from Rutgers University, so there's a bit of synchronicity with Rutgers. I was institutionalized there, I worked there, and I was recorded there, and so 2023, I'm saying now begins picking up everything that we did to get going on the documentary and the movie. This particular psychiatrist 100% supported the premise, the truth, the reality of what I went through. He became an investor. In a year and a half, we went from 2 people, myself and the psychiatrist, to over 50, and it's growing, of people around the world who are involved, engaged, documenting their stories, and 100% agreeing on not just a documentary, but a docu-series because there's too many pieces to do a documentary. And we're doing the movie as well. I'll stop there because there's other pieces too behind the scenes. So
Wow.
that brings you up to today.
Wow. What I tried to make the math. It's not halving every time something happened like this big. From the first emergency to the second half emergency, 26 years, and then 10 years, and then 5 years, and then 2 years. It's just kind of like boom. So basically,
Woo!
according to Greg Braden, it's kind of like these cycles which are coming back and back and back in life if you're observative, and they get shorter and shorter. So looks like this year should be the year if the math is correct, right? Wow. So you got so many people on board, and of course, then it's this document series. And how so first comes the docu series which starts, or is the movie?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for that math because that's healing. I'm going to just tell you this week what that did to me because I can feel the energy of you seeing it getting closer and closer and closer and closer to reality. And I don't think I ever put all those years together. So thank you. Um, I'm going to stay with the theme of what's going on behind the scenes. So last year, a few of us said we need to make the movie. Movie is the most popular, intense lawsuit, fictionalized lawsuit, Hollywood, it all fits. So we start there, we start paying for the scriptwriter again. And fairly soon, we get some intelligence from Hollywood that says docuseries are becoming popular, which you now know. They are like massively coming out now, right? But a year ago, it was, I think you need to do the documentary first. So, 1, 2, 3 points. We said, all right, the documentary is probably less expensive. It's all facts. So let's start collecting facts because we need the facts for the movie anyway. So why don't we do it simultaneously? Meanwhile, Oliver, we get all kinds of unsolicited advice. You can't do both at the same time. You can't do a movie and a doc. Well, of course we can, but one is helping the other. So literally my truth behind the scenes is I have to. I have to collect all the data, all the people for the documentary so that we have our facts straight for the movie
Yeah.
when the scriptwriter comes in and the money. So if you understand that, a lot of people didn't. I'm like, I have to do it this way. So very thankful that somebody came in and said, one, documentaries are important. Oh, by the way, docuseries are even that much more important. Oh, okay. Well, we have enough information for more than one. We have a series of probably 10, but let's just stick to 2 or 3. So now we find out docuseries are important. Faith-based movies are important. Real life stories are important. God is now allowed to come into the movies. That's also different from it was in 2005. So all the steam is now happening. We do have at least one investor. And to be honest to the theme of this, there was a sequence of betrayals from people I hired from Hollywood that devastated me last year. That I put money down, I trusted, and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening again. Meaning I paid, and then the person defected and said they would not do the work and they wouldn't give me my money back. So I have to say that because that's still behind the scenes.
I,
And
yeah.
maybe I should stop there because I want to tell the good story, but we got hit last year from writing contracts, paying money, thinking we did the right vetting. But yeah, the word betrayal, we got betrayed a few times and we're still back. We're still back. We're still staying with it. And we have to somewhat kiss the money goodbye that we lost. And so maybe I should stop there because I want to tell the truth, right? Behind the series, and it's still going. But we got hit twice last year with betrayals and had to restart. And miraculously, we got a new producer in December. So I want to say there's good news. We got somebody, but we had some betrayals through last year.
It's kind of an important part behind the scene. We don't see how these movies, documentaries, and series are built, and right, we don't know the stories behind. And I guess for someone, as I said already before, someone which is only starting on that path or is on that path, things don't work out. I don't know how standard that is. I hope it's not standard, but it can happen, right? It can happen. So many obstacles, but you persist, right? What did you say? You are enthusiastic, steadfast, and a believer in God, right? So you're steadfast. You continue. You're moving. you believe in the project. It's something, and it's also the people, the feedback you get, the people you meet around the world which had similar experiences, and you just want to help the world. You want to open up the eyes of people, of moms, of dads, of family members, of friends,
Yeah.
so they open up and realize, hey, it's not mental health, it's not a mental issue, it's support. And I've had an interview with another gentleman I met from ayahuasca 2 years ago, and he also tries to build up a, a team that helps people which go through spiritual crisis through whatever means. Could be through meditation, could be through ayahuasca, mushrooms, I don't know, something, and they feel lost. I don't know where he is at the moment or how far they are with that project, but perhaps someone I could connect with you to see what they are doing. That was like 2 years ago, I
Yeah.
think I talked. So it is coming more and more up, and it's also in the podcasting world or the YouTube world. More and more of these topics come up. There's more and more near-death experience podcasts. At least 3 or 4 are dedicated only on that. I also found another one, Y Files, which is also talking about mystical, different things we normally don't talk about. So I think the world slowly wakes up. And I guess if you would have come out with the movie in 2005, I don't know how many people would watch it. They would not
Right.
be ready. And
Nothing fun.
it's like some people say when the Matrix came out, it kind of helped us open our eyes, and that movie opened up the eyes of so many people of the possibilities of different talks, and the whole Marvel universe with the parallel universes and all that stuff, right? Is also kind of helping us up understanding what are these scientists and these spiritual people talking about multiverse. You couldn't really grasp it, but when you see it in a Hollywood movie, suddenly you can
Yeah.
start to somewhat understand it. And I think so with your movie, it might be that the people are not ready to hear it until it comes, right? It's divine timing. I also have to learn that, right? I'm also getting pissed a lot of time if things don't work out, and it's getting surrender and just everything is good as it is. It's neither good or bad, it just is, and we are on the track.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so where are we now? Now you said you have a new producer. It's February 24.
Mhm.
Uh, Depending all on my speed of processing when it comes out. But where are you now? That's behind the scene. It's like writing it while you're hospitalized, finding people to help you, finding friends which actually help you mentally to push you to write it, finding producers, shelving it again, finding new people, creating networks. Suddenly, you have 50 people and more around the world working on it, getting new producers, getting screenwriters, being pulled over the table, and have to start in the beginning again. It feels like it's kind of a test for you as well. Are you ready to move?
Being
So what are the other pieces you want to share from the behind the scenes we haven't heard?
Yes. Oh, I love how you can summarize and connect the dots. I'll run through a few pieces. One, what what specifically keeps me going right now is to hear how people now, 2023, 2024, are being pulled into a hospital against their will now. Another 25-year-old, another 50-year-old, another this one, that one, now. So it's happening now. And I almost could go to sleep a little bit. I'm like, okay, you know, but it's happening now to my friends, to people on the team. And that, like, I cannot believe this. So I'm like, so I get why I'm positioned to do this so historically. It's not like I'm just currently waking up to it today, right? So one, it's happening now, Oliver, around the world. And I'm giving access to it. And I do notice a handful of our team members who are in litigation or have been in litigation. So God bless them because I didn't want to go to court. I wanted to write a movie about a court case. So now we have some brave souls going to court, which is excruciating and costly. So now I see their courage and I'm like, I gotta do the movie and the documentary. Um, 1, 2 was I'm gonna stop there because that was a main point that I see it now. It's a lot of our team members, it happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, in the 90s, and we're gonna cover 40 to 50 years. We're gonna cover from the 70s to now because we wanna show the historics of media, pharmaceuticals, meds, narratives. We wanna cover the history so the world sees, "Wait a minute, this is very fact-based," right? But it's happening now, Oliver. People are being put into mental hospitals against their will, and I'm gonna stay specifically on when they have spiritual experiences,
Yeah.
because it's also questionable if it's not a spiritual experience. Do you need hospitals? Do you not? Can't you get to respites? Can't you do something more gentle? I got to leave that on the side. We're really focusing on the spiritual part too. So let's at least stop incarcerating that and let's try to help the whole system so that anybody that's brought into the system is treated with more respect and dignity and alternatives and not be just pumped with drugs and put in a locked ward. So we're going to feature it in the movie and we're going to feature it in the docuseries. And we want to get on the news. Oliver, we want to get on the news as part of this to say, is the public informed? Can we get some celebrities? And I think many of us know many celebrities have had mental health challenges. Can we get some celebrities supporting us? Can we get people to fund this? Because almost everybody has been touched by mental health challenges. So can we get some funding? So let's just like bring this show to a close or an opening. That's my off the cuff message. We got to just get this going. This is not another restart. You are not going to do a podcast in 10 years and say, "Oh, and it didn't happen." No, it's happening.
Yeah, but
It's happening.
I can see, I mean, just the last 3 years, all these different things which are getting publicized. It's not only the mental health, I'm not going into all the details, but we have seen so much dirt and so much publicity and narratives about so many things. We started food, we started education, we started what is health, climate, mental health, physical health, how to be a good person, whatever. Like even Native Americans. I mean, I just started watching some documentaries about Native Americans, and the story I learned in Switzerland was completely opposite of what was the truth.
Yes.
Right? I talked to Sami people 2 years ago in northern Scandinavia, right? Russia, Finland, Sweden, Norway. It's the region of these indigenous up there, the reindeer herders. And I talked 2 hours to an elderly, and what she told me is like, "What?" Right? She was scared. She was racistic because sharing too much of her knowledge. Then they get afraid because the white people use them. And she said the stories she learned from going around the world to natives, it's always the same. They're connected, but we don't know these things, and these things are slow. Like if I'm able to absorb it, and I hear from other people, they also learn. Like, oh, you go to Bali to natives, they have a similar culture like the Scandinavian natives, like the Native Americans, like Africans, and that's all these things, right? So, like, I think the world is ready to, yeah, overflow of narratives are coming to the surface, coming to the news, um, and have to be looked at. And mental health is a
Yeah.
very important one. And for me, I mean, I've been depressed for I don't know how much, and feel not worthy, not good enough, and all these things. And it's just like, here's the solution: take the medication. I'm like, no, that's not the solution. You're not helping. You're getting your $10,000 a month or more by talking to me for 20 minutes and giving me medication, and meeting me every 4 weeks and That's not a treatment. That's a money-making machine, not a treatment. That's my 5 cents. And you making a documentary, and for me, it was not a spiritual awakening. I think the process was a spiritual awakening, going through the system and trying to, not be depressed, trying to be in flow, trying
Yeah.
to be happy and more authentic. That was basically my spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that way, or my personal awakening. So, but we are talking about your documentary. So, um, you threw off the cuff some things. Do you want to go into a few questions I have, or is there more you want to share about behind the scenes?
Yeah. We can, and just to anchor, the documentary, it's clear it's a series because there's so much content. Truth is coming out now. I think the paradigm is much more demanding or receptive to hear truth. So it's time. I wouldn't have been ready 18 years ago. So that all makes sense. And the movie will be sidebarring, this as we get the resources, to call God to the witness stand. And it's really calling truth to the witness stand. That's what that means. So movie, docuseries, I'm gonna just keep chipping away at it. Um, yeah. So ask your questions.
Yeah, I have a few throughout your sharing, which what came up to me is like one thing is of we talk about spiritual emergency, spiritual awakening. So what is a spiritual emergency in your definition, or
Mm,
what you've seen through the years and talking to so many people?
yeah. Um, I'm gonna say you're gonna get me at my area of not expertise. It's only from my lived experience.
Yeah.
We have amazing PhD MDs who can describe that, and that will come out in the documentary with their depth. For me, it is just such a simple I'm Christian, and it was completely Christian. I had a communion with Holy Spirit, and you cannot deny it. It's like, "That's what this is like. Wow." Um, so it's something I was never taught in church, but I recognized it as that. I also now recognize it happens in many cultures, many religions. So that's been my knowing, or my awakening is I'm seeing it in other religions who they would have to explain it. I learned that it turns into an emergency when fear comes in. So this beautiful experience turns into an emergency when fear comes in. And I'll simplify it by saying, if I have no one to talk to that I believe would understand, I then got fearful. So if I don't have a support network, then I wound up going into some fear
Mhm.
because I didn't know how to explain it. But, if you're in a certain culture or group, we have people from various cultures that said, you could have explained this in my living room and I would have been fine. And I actually don't even want to name the cultures because there's just beautiful cultures that this, I would have never, different cultures would not have reacted the same way mine did. So I don't know if that helps, but the emergency to me happens when there's fear prompted by either a medical system or a family cultural system that ignores you, negates it, doesn't understand. And it's frightening
Yeah, for
inside.
so it was your upbringing, basically, the beliefs around, uh, yeah, the church. You say you're Christian, so it's like what we learn in the religion and stuff like that. That you get fearful, and then the parents have not had the same experience, so they will go with what they learned in the church and say, "Yeah, you're delusional," or how is it? Or was that the fear you had, or you were afraid that the parents would not listen to you in
No,
your
it's
case?
not what people learn in church. It's, different. In Christian religions, there's all kinds of denominations, where in some in some Christian religions, in a Pentecostal or a Baptist church that I was in, very comfortable to have a spiritual experience. Um, so I'm almost thinking this is going to be a complicated part of the podcast. I want to keep it simple to in my family and friendship and even business circle, it just was there was no language to explain what I went through. So I chose to be quiet.
Yeah.
Part of being quiet moved me into fear because I couldn't just talk about it, nor could I talk about it in the hospital. Today, there might be a better chance for hospitals, therapists, medical people to at least know that a spiritual experience exists. It's a little bit more known than it was then.
Okay. I think I don't remember if it was with you or someone else that more and more people, the near death experiences, we know many doctors which have a lot of deaths, they experience people coming back with
Mm,
undeniable knowledge. So they know,
mm,
even though, right, there's a few, especially nurses. I think I've heard that nurses are more open to that, and they say, don't talk to the doctors, they don't believe it. We have seen that a lot of time. And
mhm.
you guys explain things you could not know, even if you're dead and your hearing would work because you were in another room or whatever, whatever. Uh, but it's also with the psychiatry. I think there's more people which had themselves spiritual awakenings or family members. Wasn't
Yes.
it something like that I've heard? So I think it's infiltrating more and more in those systems as well. So you will more likely find someone which has experienced and compared to 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yes. Yes. The whole cultural and spiritual competency is becoming more prevalent. Have a long way to go. It's probably closer to transpersonal therapists know this, psychiatry. There is a movement in psychiatry to open up one for psychiatrists to actually talk about their own experiences, and that will come out in our documentary. That we have medical psychiatrists who have had their own what they might call spiritual or psychotic experiences. So the making of the movie is, wow, we got trained medical professionals that are now confessing, we also had this.
Yeah, and they probably have kept quiet as well of not being institutionalized from their
Yeah.
peers of coming out or something like that because they've seen what
Yes.
happens. Um,
So yeah, just to nail that point. So part of the making of the movie is to be discovering this behind the scenes. And I'm like, wow, we now have psychiatrists who are going way past their medical training and starting to speak out because they have to. And they're going past the fear of being ostracized by their institutions or peers. They're saying, I too had either a psychotic experience and I got through it without going in the hospital because I figured out how to avoid it. Or two, I had a spiritual experience and now I know these are not all psychotic. So that is going to come out in our documentary, Oliver,
uh,
that I love getting PhDs, medical medical professionals to speak on this because there's some credibility there in addition to any the rest of us who might not have those degrees. So we're putting all that into the docuseries. And again, now I know why it's taken so long because we had to even collect that this year.
yeah, yeah, you have a lot to collect. I mean, you don't collect that in a year or whatever, right? You collect that over time. Now, another question coming up to me, and you partially probably answered it. Who does have those spiritual awakening or spiritual crisis, and why do those why do they experience that? Do you see a pattern with all the research you did that a certain type of people have these spiritual awakenings, or is it just randomized? It's just like completely randomized.
Yeah, I almost was going to answer your question. I love that randomized. I love the depth and breadth of people that are coming out to say, "I wanna tell you about mine, and mine, and mine," and I'm like, "Oh, no, I gotta hear another one." Sorry. Um, all ages, we're really looking to hear more from the 20-somethings because there's a lot going on in the 20-something, time period where that happens. And so we're bringing that out. We're hearing from the 70 and 80-year-olds who never spoke of it,
Yeah.
which is great, and then we're hearing it from around the world, right? Um, almost there's probably a thought that I'm gonna forget. So definitely randomized. Oh, as an example, when I was doing what I have lived experience now with people, but when I was doing a research, I remember I'm gonna say 1 research scientist who said she was a Jewish agnostic and she had a Christ spiritual experience.
Mhm.
So to me, that puts it that maybe that does that answer your question? She was a Jewish agnostic and she had a Christ experience, not a Buddhist, not a Muhammad. You can have it from any religious leader. But when she said that, I'm like, it can happen to anyone, anywhere, unsolicited. And it doesn't matter what religion or culture you're brought up in. It comes out, you tell the story, and that one, I mean, tell me what that means to you when I say that. Jewish, agnostic, had a Christ experience.
Now I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, so I'm not that surprised anymore because I heard also Muslims which had some Christian kind of, the Christ energy flowing through them, and they could feel that.
Okay.
But I haven't heard that many Muslims because we're Europeans, right? So, and speaking English, so there's a lot more Christian backgrounds with NDEs and spiritual awakenings and out of body experiences or whatever. Ego death could also be one of those. But that's nice that you say it's, I had just had the feeling like there could be some kind of pattern in life for people. What happens? You said you had like traumas, and through these traumas you needed to release, and there was a spiritual awakening in how you said it. So I thought like, okay, it could be something like that. I don't remember with Benjamin I interviewed what was triggering him. He was at school, I remember that, and he was just throwing out money and love, and who needs money? We all
Yes.
have love. uh, but yeah, and then the other thing is the chemical imbalance. Imbalance we talked about. Now we only touched upon it. What do you see? I mean, the doctors, the society, the culture tells us if you have ADHD, OCD, depression, anxiety, it's a chemical imbalance. But I also know um, sugar pills like the blind test, the placebo is only 3% less effective.
Yeah.
So, so then what does your research show? Why are we keep on saying there's a chemical imbalance and that's why you need to take medication?
Yeah. I love that you're including this, and I'm going to answer it as simple as I can because I defer to the experts.
Yeah,
Robert Whitaker from Made in America, to me is one of our major experts in our docuseries. And he just goes into the details so beautifully from when the chemical imbalance narrative came out in the 80s and 90s and how he started speaking in the year 2000 of how it wasn't even validated in the American Psychiatric Association. And if I'm correctly saying this, I'm pretty close, that, almost around 2000, the research showed that the chemical imbalance narrative was not correct. So in the docuseries, we are gonna cover this in depth because my mother believed it, which is why she called the police, not because I was acting uncontrollable. She was concerned. I was like, "Oh, my daughter has chemical imbalance. Let's get her in the hospital. Let her get her fixed real quick," right? She was meaning well. if she wasn't trained in the chemical imbalance, maybe she would have asked me a few more questions. It is not true. As far as I am understanding the experts, it is a narrative that has been promoted, and we want to provide the research that says, think again.
Do your own research, do your own introspection. How do you feel about it? So
Yeah.
I don't know if you can answer that. I'm asking it anyway because it keeps on coming up through my system. What can we do else if something like that happens? What can we do as family members, friends, or
Ah,
or even at school or work? We see something like that. What can we do, or what is missing in our society to actually help?
glad you brought that up because we could have almost missed it. In the docu-series, we are covering every possible alternative that currently exists, not just in my local area in the United States, but around the world. So that's a part of our first episode. We have to. I'm going to do a little bit of a roundabout answer. Part of our movie making is saying it's more than a movie, it's a movement. So I'm not just doing a movie, I have to do a movement, Oliver. I have to do something. My team, we have to do something in our state, in our country to make a difference so that the movie, I don't know, maybe reports on the movement that we actually did something in addition to doing a movie. So we are partnering with Peer Respites, Peer Wellness Support, which has really great research that it far surpasses some of the therapeutic attempts at treatment. Peer support. And I'm going to say something really quickly that people have to know. I'm a military mom. My son was in the Army. He came home totally healthy, mentally healthy. But we also know veterans who have had, pretty painful PTSD. Veterans do not want to go to a hospital and have somebody who was never in combat treat them. Peers. I mean, it's just known. Veterans work best with veterans to help them through, right? So let's take that over this other agenda that says peer support. One is just logical, two is research. And there are organizations right in our state, in our country, around the world that let's just start going there. Number two, we are working with law enforcement and the whole emergency call and pickup. We're bringing clergy in from all religions and looking to create legislation that says it's almost required or people are allowed, supported to call a clergy when the police come before they have to be put in a hospital. If they're put in a hospital, let a clergy or a spiritual leader walk through so that there's that support. Um, I'm not going to really talk about the obvious alternatives because they've been out, but they're worthy to say. There are alternatives from cultures all over the world. What's become popular? Meditation, yoga. Okay, everybody knows about. But there are almost every culture is offering a healing service that is available. People are looking for it individually. Can insurance companies please start covering that so it's a little easier to get to, easier to pay for? They're there. These services are there. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know, acupuncture, cranial sacral, whatever.
Oh
Like
yeah,
there's all kinds of things.
I try.
But so they're there, right? They're there. Many of us have gone off fragmented. So can we get them more mainstream? Because they have thousands of years behind them. Ayurvedic from India. I study, with Deepak Chopra and just Ayurvedic. I was never trained in that, but there's support there. And okay, so everybody's finding these pieces. So can we get this into our medical system that says these are valid alternatives? Then I'm going to go to one more. I was called, and it shouldn't be a surprise, that I was called to pull clergy together, spiritual leaders. I didn't plan that. I'm bringing Christian leaders, but from, Hindu, Muslim, every culture. Let's bring the spiritual leaders together in the state that I live in New Jersey. We have a coalition. And one, let's talk about there's this thing called a spiritual experience, could turn spiritual emergency. Can you be involved into the mental health system? I'll keep it short until you want. So here's a thing called we have spiritual leaders trained in all kinds of spiritual practices. And there are people, even if it's not a spiritual experience, so every mental health experience has some spiritual component, is my belief. Can we include them
Hmm.
before somebody goes into a hospital, while somebody's in? We have clergy talking about, let us just walk through so we can de escalate it. So the person feels like they have somebody covering them. I'm going to stop there because maybe that's my third one. Can we bring the spiritual leaders into the system? And I'll say one more thing. A bunch of us were just at the Rutgers University Medical School where psychiatrists were presenting this, but it's not out in mainstream. So it's available. And to me, it seems like an obvious thing to allow somebody to have a spiritual support in 2024 when, I don't know, the research is already there. It's already available. Why not have emotional, physical, mental, spiritual support?
I can see you mentioned before we had the the internet issue. You said you described the peer with the military peer, the veterans that they help because if some people are not having English as a first language, as a mother tongue, they might not understand. But the peer means someone which has a similar situation, a similar background. It could be that you're a medic, so you have some medics which had gone through similar situations, traumas, or whatever, or military peer. And I also think when you share like the world, the different cultures have these things integrated. I've also heard, I don't remember what, but indigenous cultures, if someone has a mental issues, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, the indigenous society looks at it as a disease in their society, not as a disease in the person. So they look at what can their society, the group, do to improve because it's an expression of that something doesn't work in their unity, and they help. When you go back to peer, they help as a group, and also know these blue zones. I think it was in one of these documentaries about the blue zones where people are 100 years, 110 years old. That it's kind of like you work as a yeah, everyone helps everyone. If someone is sick, someone comes. It's not just like your best friend or your family. It's people in the community come and help out. If you need someone to help out in the garden, someone will come. But we are so connected that we need to have our friend or our family. It's we're so disconnected, living in big blocks with hundreds of people, but we are alone. And I think that's also one thing which is wrong in our society. And when you mentioned the spiritual leaders, I was like, okay, if someone has a spiritual awakening or an emergency, but doesn't really believe in God, doesn't really believe in Allah or Buddha or something, how do you help them? I think it's just having someone they can talk to and feel safe to be open and share. Because you also said you
Well,
were not
yeah,
feeling open to share and keep it
yeah.
inside, and the fear is building up, you get crazy, you start seeing stuff. Perhaps I don't say that you did that, but I can imagine people which cannot talk. It's like you need to share, you need to let it out, like this happened to me. You need an acknowledgement, you need a ventil. um and I think with all these kind of podcasts as I have here, with your docu series, there's also on Netflix is something about communication with the other side and near-death experiences, out of body. I think there's also docu-series. I think people are getting more and more open for it, right? So we're in a time where it's opening slowly up. But yeah, Ayurveda and Chinese traditional Chinese
Uh,
medicine and all these things, they look at the whole holistic body and look
Yes.
at the balance. Like, where are we out of balance? How can we come back into balance? Be it by acupuncture, food, meditation, whatever. Uh, the knowledge is there. The Indians have been good to preserve it. It's
Yeah.
just to learn it again. It's just to bring it out into the masses. I think that's my take on that.
You said a lot we could unpack. I'm going to zero in on a few key pieces that came from live conversation, live events we did. We included law enforcement and clergy and mental health leaders. So that's a nice little combination. One of the key, some of the key words that came out were, and this is from clergy, law enforcement, and mental health: empathy, empathy, listening, and compassion. If and I don't want it to sound like so, I don't know, conceptual. It's very tactical. When when law enforcement shows up and has empathy, compassion, listening, when family shows up with empathy, compassion, and listening, when medical therapists show up, ER, hospitals, same thing. If that empathy, compassion, listening, it's all kind of the same. All it is a human skill of doing what you're doing right now. They're listening and you have been empathetic. But we have live events where these people had said that's the core. And how much money could we save when people do that? How much heartache and trauma could we save just with that? Some of these scenarios, let's say they're frightening. On the worst case, somebody's like really lost control. What if we had like this grounded empathy? Oh, I want to go to an example. What if people can be grounded? What if it could have an effect before we put somebody in handcuffs, like and cart them off to a hospital? So, one, I want to say a point about eh, as we can have more empathy, compassion, and listening, all the same thing, we might be able to save money and prevent trauma and misuse of hospitalization systems because the human spirit might respond in more cases than not. Let me give you a tiny detour and we can, stop from it. When I was in the hospital, of which we will talk about in the movie, and I'm not going to do too much now, but I have to say it. Both times, 79, 2005, I sat with people who were patient. I did not sit there as a mental illness patient. I sat there as, I want to keep it simple. I just sat there as a sane person. And what I did, Oliver, is I sat and listened and talked, almost like I was a professional. Oh, I'm going to go for it. 1979, 2005. Get this. Both times, patients said to me, "You are a spy from the medical institution. We do not trust you." Both times, 25 years apart, exact words: "We do not trust you. You are a spy. We think you are a spy from the medical department." It might have taken 2 or 3 days for me as a patient to say, "I'm one of you. I'm locked up here too, but I am friggin' sane." and I'm going to serve you while I'm here. I just want to give a lead into watch the movie because I have to say that I was in the hospital and I was guided to do that. I kept my sanity because I was guided to do that. And now outside, I am a free citizen. I'm going to go for this. I'm trying to pull this thing together. I'm trying to pull this documentary movie together without the right funds. And I'm called to bring clergy in and police and mental health people together right now as we speak. And the one thing that's common is that they say, why don't we start with empathy, compassion, and listening?
Mhm.
Do something with that because that does not cost anything.
Yes, there we open up another can of worms if we go there. According to my, I have to be careful. It's almost 12 o'clock for me at night. But and
Okay.
we're not talk. I mean, we talk about the making of the documentary. How did it happen? Where did we come? And unfortunately, I've heard so many people, other podcasts, other documentaries where people are just asking like, why are we not doing this obvious solution? And often it's exactly what you said. For so many things, the whole the wars we have, right? Now they attack whatever Putin and Tucker for lying and whatever not. I have no idea. I haven't heard that podcast, but it's these wars we have around the world. They come from the same root cause because we're not listening. We are not empathic. We are defending. We are fighting for something because we think we are not good enough. We are not enough. We need more. And all these things come because we have not been heard. We have not been seen. We have not been accepted
Mm.
because our parents have not learned to to react that way. They just did what their parents did because of what the school system showed them, what the whatever the cultural system, the TVs, the news. Have you seen in the news
Mm.
anything about like what we found this? No, it's all about the bad stuff. It's not about we found a cure. Like so many people came out of whatever psychiatry because we are listening better to them. We are more empathic. We are more
Uh,
open. We don't
what?
hear these things, right?
We will.
Hopefully, I know there's.
We
I
will.
haven't found it, but I heard there's a news page which is only bringing positive news. I have to find it.
Yes, I've heard about that too, and I want to build on that. But yes, so where you're going is why we are doing this. This is the make right now, here. This is the making of the movie. Right here. Because you're giving voice to logic and wisdom. And yeah, so this is part of the making of the movie and many movies.
So is there? Yeah, for my own sake, that tomorrow I'm functional. Is there anything I forgot to ask you? You want to get out of your heart, which you feel like to share?
Um, I want to say, let's keep talking because that's my message. There's no way to get all of this clear. Let's keep talking. My producer said to me the other day, there's three phrases we've been playing with. One, it's more than a movie, it's a movement. Number two, we is our medicine. That came up. And part of this process is we is our medicine.
Mhm.
So if we could put we into a bottle and take it, that's the medicine, which is compassionate. So we is our medicine. Here's the third one the producer came up with. Who do you trust when the world has gone insane? And so maybe I'll leave it like that because I like ending with questions. I know who I trust, and it's sometimes a struggle. But who do you trust when the world's gone insane? And let's keep the conversation open. This is ongoing, Oliver. We have to watch the evolution of it. And I just want to thank you so much for inspiring me and waking up my voice. waking up my voice.
Oh, that it was easy. It was easy. We had some time issues, and I took a power nap before. But you were, yeah, perhaps that's what was needed, right? Because I had another interview before that one, and you were very well prepared. Of course, it's your story. I mean, you know your life, so it was easy for me to listen and ask questions, and you kept it nicely on a certain path, and answered the questions I had. And I think it gives the people which listen to that some idea on what to expect. I'm at least very curious, and I want to see something soon, um, so I can watch the documentary. Uh, yeah. So where can people find out more about the whole project if you have something? And where can they find you if they want to reach out to you and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you"? And you can also talk to me about spiritual emergency or spiritual awakening, because that's what I love to talk about with people. So yeah, like, subscribe, write to
Thank you.
me. And where Janet Werner, Warner.
I love Werner. That's my German heritage.
Yes.
Werner. Yes. Um, you know what, Oliver, I know you'll type this in it, but I'll spell it out. Um, my business corporate work is you, letter U. You have my word.com. We'll type it up, and that's my business. The movie and docuseries is on a website called callinggodtothewitnessstand.com. So we named it the movie, but there's a docuseries there. You'll see it. You'll see it. We'll meet on LinkedIn and Facebook and all that, but we just need to get the word out. And I'm going to just say a plug for. I really believe when we can get some celebrities, and I would say almost every celebrity has had a mental health challenge. Well, we can get some celebrities supporting this. John Bon Jovi is going to put out a movie or a docuseries in April, and he's in my home state. We want John Bon Jovi to join us. He's doing a docuseries. He's gone through mental health challenges. He's in my state, and the minute we can get some celebrities just saying you're doing something next level, that's going to help it just move. It's going to help it move.
Just let me know when you talk to John. Then I need to have him on my show, making my
Okay.
getting my assistant completely jealous because she was a big John Bon Jovi fan as a kid.
Well, notice I did a post on LinkedIn because he has a docuseries out in April,
Yeah.
and he did have mental health challenges. So let's just leave that as let's move this celebrity.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah. I mean, a lot of musicians. I mean, what's his name? Hetfield from Metallica and whatever, right?
everybody
I mean, we can have like a whole podcast just naming different people. Uh,
historically, also historically over the last 50 years,
yeah.
be surprised. Let's do that. Let's do that because I did part. I'm sorry. Part of my project in 2005 is I went historically into the Hollywood actors, musicians, artists, historically, how many that we know had a mental health challenge, and there were no alternatives or spiritual support. This was 40s, 50s. Let's do that because the list is very long, Oliver. And the astronaut, no, we have astronauts, actors, musicians. Let's do it. I want to do that one because
Okay.
it's exciting for people to see these people that we watched on film and be successful had mental health challenges behind the scenes. And the best way I understand it is they process it as a mental illness, but didn't see the spiritual awakening part. But I don't want to go too much further. Let's do a celebrity historical review at some point.
Yeah. For me, yeah, I was born just before you had the first crisis, so I don't remember all these
Then
other. But thank you so much for today. let's see how I'm gonna fall asleep today. It was like very
Yeah.
interesting 2 talks I had here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to have to watch the docu and perhaps also the movie. I'm more interested in the docu actually.
Ex-
Personally, I like docu series which people, but that I'm a podcaster, so I like to talk to people. So it's kind of like my mini docu series is I let make,
It
and
is.
it was
It is.
beautiful. Thank you so much. We're keeping in contact as we have been doing that for the last 6 months or so. And yeah, people, reach out to Janet or me if you have questions. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.